Yes.
I'm surprised we don't have more people speaking on it.
Dude, I don't think she can see me. I don't think she can see me. We're people standing here.
Ready? Did you say she's ready?
I don't know.
I didn't think so.
Starting? Starting?
We're good.
We're starting?
Are you ready? Ready? Okay. That's, I need that. I need that, Rachel. I need that. Okay, hold on a minute. Where's my agenda? Where's the agenda? Oh my gosh, I got way too much stuff on here. I call this meeting to order for Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Payne?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dusty.
Here.
Commissioner Josh Reardon?
Here.
Commissioner Susan, I'm sorry. There's an echo back here they're trying to
There
fix.
is an echo.
Commissioner Stephen Burnett?
Here.
Commissioner Carl Melton?
Here.
Commissioner Nick Paul?
Here.
City Manager Brian Caesar?
Here.
City Attorney Ashley
Street teaches Taekwondo, and we call them Tiger Cubs when they're little, so. Maybe you got them. Huh? Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so you know Tiger Cubs. Okay. So he started out as a Tiger Cub with Pac 147 in Alamogordo. He started in 2012. He earned the highest award in Cub Scouts, the Arrow of Light. The Arrow of Light is the only Cub Scout award which can be worn on the Boy Scout uniform. In May of 17, he graduated to Boy Scouts and joined Troop 147. He's earned 31 merit badges in his quest for Eagle Scout. He's first aid, cooking, that's really important. Really know how to do it. Movie making, nuclear science, and there's several others too. Rifle shooting, shotgun shooting, I find them very important. And robotics, automotive, gosh, there's so many here. But anyway, so he's also served as an assistant patrol leader, a patrol leader, an assistant senior patrol leader, and a senior patrol leader within his troop. So for his Eagle Scout service project, if you become an Eagle Scout, you have to do a service project. His consisted of planning, organizing, raising over $2,000 from local civic clubs and donations, and supervising the construction of a playground at Thule Motocross, the local dirt bike racetrack north of Tularosa. The playground consists of a play set with swings, a slide, and monkey bars. Trenton also added a tire swing and picnic table. Trenton is the fourth Eagle Scout in his family. His dad earned Eagle Scout in 1981. His older brother Trevor earned Eagle Scout in 2007. And Trenton's other older brother, Tyler, earned his Eagle Scout in 2010. He also races dirt bikes, and currently is racing I'll just go with it, 250cc Honda. And it says Trenton has raced throughout New Mexico and West Texas and came in overall third place in the 250 beginners class in his first year of racing in 2021. The Moriarty Motocross in Moriarty, New Mexico. That is enough, isn't it? Trenton's goal in life is to become a professional motocross racer and a diesel mechanic. My husband was a mechanic and is sort of as well, so you can't go wrong with that. So he had a ceremony, and I really wanted to be there, and due to a family issue, I could not. But I wanted to make sure that Trenton was recognized because I know what an honor this is, and I know how few make it this far. And it's not just about getting the Eagle Scout, but there's so much demonstration here, and so many teachable moments. It's about perseverance and sticking with it, and when times get tough, and I'm sure it wasn't always easy, following through. And I think that, and also I'm sure there were some disappointments along the way, and we need to teach our young people that there are going to be disappointments in life, but to not give up. And I think that is incredibly important. And we don't do enough of that these days, to be honest with you. So we need to do that. So congratulations to you. We have an award here for you. This is the Mayor's Commendation. The City of Alamogordo, New Mexico awards to Trenton Lewis James Odom this expression of grateful acknowledgement for your commitment to excellence by organizing and raising over $2,000 and supervising the construction of a playground at Thule Motocross. We talk about your badges here, and the commendation is tendered with the sincere appreciation of your fellow citizens on this 14th day of February 2023, and congratulations to you. You're good right here, I think. You good here? Nick can pretty much stand anywhere. Except in front. You can't stand in front. Here you go. Here you go. There you go.
Look at all angles.
Got it? Okay, perfect. just saw them. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is me. Me, yes. So every year, I'm supposed to do a State of the City report. I realized today that I didn't do one last year, but in fairness, I was a mayor like a month or something, so I couldn't really, right? Okay. Just go with it, Brian, go with it. Right?
You're forgiven.
I was what?
You're forgiven.
Thank you, okay. All right, but I do want to start out, I do have a report. I want to start out with a few words first and then move on to this report. It won't take me very long, so if you'll indulge me. So I want to start out with a few words about our city. Since becoming the mayor a little over a year ago now, I can't believe it's been a little over a year, I've had an opportunity to really appreciate how much time goes into this position in order to do it effectively. Well, I've been sitting on the commission for 7 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that. But 7 years now, it's really not quite the same. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what I've been tasked with and the opportunities that I've really had to make a difference in our community. And the opportunity to really protect, to affect the community for years, as we all do. We all really, if you think about what we do, we have an incredible opportunity to affect our city for years to come. And so I want everybody to know that I take this role very seriously. And when I think about who and where I was at in one point of my life, I don't even know what to say. I am incredibly humbled and honored to be sitting here. Having said that, I would also like to take a moment to thank my fellow commissioners for the opportunity to work with all of you. And, you know, we may not always we may not always agree. Okay, I'm not going to lie, my daughter is calling. I don't know what she's thinking, but anyway. While we may not always agree, we're always cordial and respectful. And I have to tell you that it's really a defining difference from years past. Because I remember sitting in these commission meetings until midnight and then walking out and going, okay, we didn't do one thing. We got not one thing accomplished. And I appreciate that we get things accomplished here and that we're cordial about it. I mean, really what makes everything so great is when you don't agree, but you can come to a conclusion. And that's what we do. So having said that, I want to, I really appreciate that. Anyway, okay, moving on. I do want to address one more thing. I'm going to make this brief, but I'm not going to let this night go by without addressing it because I have received numerous calls, texts, and emails on this. So I want to briefly address the comments that have recently been made about our community. This is a community that we all represent. And they were made, of course, by Superintendent Ken Moore. I think we've all heard about it now. And his comments that suggested that we are, among other things, a racist community full of fascists. And I went back today and listened to the video so I could make sure that I heard that correctly. And I have to tell you that one of the things that I love about our community is that I have friends from all walks of life. And I love that we are a giving community, and we are, and I see it every day. I work right in the thick of it every single day, and I tell you, we are a giving community. And we support each other. And like any communities, we do have our differences. Of course we do. But when I look at other communities, we're not even close. We don't even come close. There are always going to be ignorant people who might be considered racist. You're going to have that in any community you go to. I don't care where you live. If you knew where I grew up, you would agree with me that Alamogordo is not a racist community. But that's far different from being a racist community. And to be honest, If you were to base your decisions solely off of some social media posts, you may think we were a horrible city full of hate, because some of the comments are just outrageous. I see things about me and I don't even know who they're talking about. I have no clue because it's not me. And you might think, even honestly, like I said, they see things about me. You might think I'm subhuman, heartless, and probably the biggest racist of all, based on what I've read on Facebook. But I assure you that nothing can be farther from the truth. We are a community made up of amazing, giving people. Some of the most giving I've ever seen. And we may not always agree, but that's part of what makes us so great. And since my time on the commission, I don't ever remember a hate crime. I don't ever remember. I can't think of one hate crime that I know of that's been committed here. People will say things, and they'll say ignorant things. Somebody said something pretty ignorant at the school board meeting the other night, and as soon as he said it, my jaw dropped. And I don't think he even meant it the way he said it, but unfortunately it was said, and there's nothing we can do about it. But that's different. So what I've seen in this community is us come together in a time of need. 6 months after I started here on the commission, we had an officer killed. 6 months into being a commissioner, we had an officer killed. What I saw out of that made me really proud to be representing this city, because we saw a community that came together. We saw a community that rolled out late at night to make sure that family knew that we supported them. And I think that that's important to understand. I've seen people who have had cancer and restaurants that have come together for fundraisers for that person, and everybody show up. I've seen booster clubs and other organizations that have raised money, and I've seen people come out and come together. And they're not asking, what do you believe? Are you Christian? Are you not? What is your political appeal? They're not asking any of those things. They're just coming together, and that's how it should be. So I completely reject what Ken Moore said. I don't know that he meant it the way he said it. I think he was probably pandering, but the fact is he said it. And his comments and as much as I'm disappointed of that, I'm equally disappointed that he's trying to sneak things in as guerrilla warfare on our children. I am a grandparent of 2 kids that go to the schools, and I'm super disappointed because let me tell you something, I don't want the schools teaching my kids anything like that. That's not their job, that's my job. It's my job to make sure that my children are taught those things. Their job, reading, writing, and arithmetic, that's their job. And I'm sorry that not all parents feel that way. I'm telling you how I feel, and I have the mic right now. So I wanted to address that because I really did receive a lot of comments, and I could not let this go without letting you know how I feel about it. We live in an amazing community where we have amazing people, and we should be proud of that. We should be celebrating that. We should not be tearing each other down. It doesn't matter what we think. People think differently. That's just how it is. It's what makes America so great. And we don't always have to agree, but we don't have to tear each other apart either. And that's all I'm going to say on that one. And now I'm going to get to what I'm really talking about, which is the state of our city. So the city of Alamogordo, we have 10 departments, 10 directors, only 10. I can tell you who they are. And as of today, we have 355 employees. As with many cities around the country, we, of course, struggled with staffing. I think we all realize that. And it only seemed to be exasperated by COVID-19 pandemic. Rather than place a Band-Aid on the most significant issue of salaries, we began the year with a comprehensive salary study in which we contracted with an outside company. This much-needed study was the first of its kind in our city since 1998. Based on the recommendations from the final report, the commission passed a budget resolution that included some raises for almost every position, some kind of raise for almost every position in our city. This bold move, along with an aggressive advertising push, it seems to be working. So we began 2022 with a vacancy of over 80 positions, and today we can share that our current vacancy count, as of the time I wrote this anyway, was down to below 35. And it may even be less than that now. So this is good news for our employees, but of course, we still have work to do. But I was looking at the openings today, and we really have shrunk that number a lot. So what we're doing is working. Our police department is seeing a slight rise in officers. However, of course, with any departments all over the country, we still have openings. The current officer count is 44, with 4 more in the pipeline. I don't know if they're still in the pipeline. They were in the pipeline, am I right?
About 6 right now.
6 in the pipeline. Okay, perfect. That's even better. That sounds even better. So to put this in perspective, ideally, we'd like to see that number at 59. Then we'd be considered full staff. This is another area where we have rolled out an aggressive advertising campaign to promote our city and our department. In addition, our department has added the brand-new position of police service aides. While not certified officers, these individuals support our department and our officers by handling various traffic and routine issues, making our officers available for cases that require the work of a certified officer. Along those same lines, the police department received a slight boost from our general fund when the commission voted unanimously to designate the GRT proceeds from the marijuana sales to the police department to be used at the chief's discretion and with the approval of the city manager. And I'm super proud of that. I think we did the right thing. We also saw some staffing changes in 2022. Public Works was split into 2 departments. We now have Nancy Beschler, who is the Director of Public Works, and Dave Nunley is now the Utilities Director. And also being split is the Community Services and a newly created position of Parks and Recreation. By separating these positions, the city will be in a position to place a greater emphasis on quality of life issues, activities, and amenities that are provided to the citizens of Alamogordo. PSAP, so proud of this one. Another major accomplishment in our city was the establishment of the Public Safety Access Point, or PSAP. This project has been talked about for years, but could never quite get off the ground. To explain it in simple terms, when you call for help, depending on where you live in the city or the county, you may get a different dispatch center. With the establishment of PSAP, we will now have one dispatch center that will essentially be its own entity, which will be fiscally administered by the county. And I wasn't quite sure how to word that, but the county will be responsible as the fiscal agent. So this could not have been possible without the cooperative partnership of the city and county, specifically the positive working relationship of Chief Richie Denton and Sheriff David Black, who deserve many accolades for their willingness to put their community first. And for those of you who have ever tracked PSAP, how long did that take? Many years.
Over 23, I believe.
Over 23 years to get that done. Yeah. I know, it doesn't seem like it, but that was a long time, and it's finally happening. Super excited. So some of the projects, several projects were also started and or completed in 2022. Most notable, of course, is Bonita Lake. While not fully operational, the major cleanup removal of debris was completed and brought back to pre-flood conditions. While the lake was down, staff took advantage of that opportunity and, with funding from a grant, work was completed to rehabilitate and enhance the intake tower, replace the valving and piping, and eliminate the temporary bypass pipeline. In addition, enhancements were made to the lake's south side to provide easier access for staff and lake visitors. Visitors may resume day use activities this summer. City staff is in active negotiations with New Mexico Fish and Game Department for the restocking of the lake, and the campgrounds will still be closed until further notice. That is good news for our visitors. The Scenic Extension is another project that was completed in late 2022. This project has been in the works for several years and was held up due to an inability to communicate with Union Pacific. The regulations required that in order to open a railroad crossing, the city was required to close 2 others. Unfortunately, we only had one that we could close at the A Street crossing. This brought negotiations to a standstill. One of our citizens, Sue Danikas, many of you know her, made this her goal and literally for years called Union Pacific until we got someone to work with us. Through her persistence and the incredible work of our staff, we completed this project. Because this section of the road extends scenic out to Mesa Verde area, it will allow for easier access for residents living and working in that area and those considering other economic development projects. While the city's part is complete, the road will be open once PNM approves the plans and can complete the electrical extension needed for Union Pacific to operate. The cost of this project was just under $4 million and was paid through local funding. Alameda Park irrigation renovations. This project includes replacing and upgrading sprinkler irrigations from the north end of the zoo to the toy train depot. Work is underway and is scheduled to be completed in July of '23. The cost of this project was around $879,000 and also locally funded. ADA compliant sidewalks. This is a $1.7 million project, and it'll install projects, curb and gutter, as well as ADA compliant ramps, driveways, and asphalt patching between 2nd and A Street in the area of New York Avenue to Texas Avenue. Currently, the design has been completed and the contract's been awarded, and our staff, congratulations to our staff, especially Debbie Osborne. She was successfully awarded a $500,000 community development block grant to fund a portion of this project. And I believe $500,000 is the maximum that we can get for that, so she got the maximum. Of course, one of my passions as mayor has been to clean up our city. We find a lot of property owners that own property in our city, but they live in other cities, and they have no connection to those properties. Stella's shaking her head because she knows what I'm talking about. They don't have any connections to those properties, and therefore they don't take care of those properties, and we're stuck with them. We may be little old Alamogordo, but we have a right to a beautiful, clean city. And if they're not going to take care of it, then apparently we have to. So that's what's happened. Of course, it can always be frustrating for staff and the residents. We field so many calls for code enforcement. I know I personally do. So we want to assure our citizens that we're working on enforcing these ordinances that are currently in place and putting property owners on notice that we will take action. I often say that I believe we have a constitutional right when it comes to our properties. However, when somebody else's perceived constitutional rights infringe on my constitutional rights, then it becomes an issue, and we need to do something about it. So tearing down dilapidated structures is never easy and not something we as a commission take lightly. Getting something like this done can take months or even years, as we ensure due process for every property owner. In 2022, we were able to successfully tear down a total of 5 properties in various parts of our city, and we're not done yet. The cost to date for the city to do those 5 properties is $235,000. And we plan to continue to move forward so that abandoned, dilapidated, and often dangerous structures are no longer a health and safety issue for any of our residents. Moving to long-term plans, I will promise I'll make this brief. No, I don't, but I'll try. I will share that our Community Service Department has created a community master plan. This comprehensive plan is a vision of what we want our community to look like going forward. This plan is made based on several factors, including economic trends, demographics, housing, transportation, and land development. With this more extensive plan, master plans are being created for specific critical areas. Water. Of course, water is always a concern, and we recognize we need to invest time in creating a plan so there's a path going forward. The last time any updates to a water master plan were made was in 1986. Yeah. So as you can see, this was long overdue. Once this has been completed, our citizens can feel confident knowing that we're taking steps to be proactive rather than being reactive. There's been parts of this done, but there has not been an actual real master plan since 1986. Sewer, along the same lines, the master plan for of water, we're updating and revising the master plan for sewer. The last revision on this plan was in 2085, or 2005. Oh, where I got 2085? 2005. And of course, this is a critical area in our community. Drainage, this is huge. If you've lived here for any length of time, you've quickly learned that drainage is always a topic of conversation after a significant rain. Up until this point, there has never been a comprehensive drainage master plan. We're excited to announce that for the first time ever, we're creating one to address our city's current and future needs. Street maintenance, our current plan is on hold pending the creation of a transportation master plan that will focus on evaluating existing roadways to determine conditions and how to move forward with repair and replacement. Once this is done, then we can resume work based on those results. It's important to note that included in all of the above-mentioned plans is a consideration for all the other plans. So they didn't create all these separate plans without considering all the other plans, so they all tie in together. So this should all work together, which has been another problem in the past. So not just thinking about one, but thinking about all of them. So what's in store? A community swimming pool. Assessment and preliminary design are underway, and options will be presented to the commission at a future date for constructing a new community swimming pool. For those of you that have followed this, you remember a few years back, we had to eliminate our pool that we used in the winter months, and that was due to a change in health and safety regulations. At the time, we realized that it was cost prohibitive to replace the structure with something more up to date, so the commission was forced to put the project on hold. We're now ready to revisit the possibility of a brand-new community pool equipped with an entirely up-to-date cover so our citizens can enjoy it year-round. Ed Brabson Balloon Park, design is currently underway to make it a more realistic, usable event venue. Many options are being explored to ensure everything is considered. When finished, this space will be available for public rental and use as well. The Great Blocks Project. This project focuses on New York Avenue and begins on the north side of the intersection at 10th Street and extends south to 8th Street. A portion of 9th Street between New York Avenue and White Sands Boulevard is also included in this project. The contractor will provide, install, and construct decorative pavements, including integral colored concrete paving and specialty finishes installed in vehicular and non-vehicular conditions, asphalt paving, striping, regulatory signage, decorative monuments, concrete curb and gutter, accessible curb, ramps, install site furnishings, planting, automatic irrigation system, decorative light bulbs, and associated electrical work. Okay, that's code for it's going to look really good when it's done. That's what that means. Okay. So the last thing I want to mention are various ordinances. There's been much focus on being as business-friendly as possible regarding interaction with our business owners and citizens in general. As part of our ongoing commitment to our community, we're now beginning to do a comprehensive review of all of our building standards and city ordinances to ensure that we are using best practices and delivering fair and equitable treatment as efficiently as possible. Our most current focus includes the tech standards, of course, that were done in 2022. The city contracted with an outside company and gathered input from citizens and builders, and we have assembled a manual of the most up-to-date standards in the industry with plans to include a revision schedule to ensure that going forward, our city will always follow best practices and the latest industry standards. Code enforcement, we're conducting a comprehensive review of our code enforcement ordinances and procedures. This review is only the third since its inception in 1960, with the last review done in 2008. When completed, this will allow our citizens to easily determine what is considered either acceptable or a violation. It will also ensure that there are no gray areas and that all property owners are held to the same standard. Okay. And just a quick example, a couple of
months ago, Brian and I were called out to a subdivision that's behind an apartment complex here in Alamogordo that many people probably don't even know is there. And when we got there, the homeowner was concerned because there was raw sewage coming up through the street. You know what the problem is? The problem is the city didn't own the street. We had never taken possession of it, and we didn't know that it was there, other than we had turned water on to that development. Those are the kinds of things that have happened in the past, and we told the homeowner, unfortunately, if that main line breaks, all we can do is shut water off to all these houses around here. We can't repair it, because it's not our street to repair. We're trying to prevent that going forward, and we're trying to ensure that everybody follows those same standards. I felt bad for them because they all own houses on that street. And I was really worried that they were gonna have a water line break, and we weren't gonna be able to do anything about it. And we were not even sure who to direct them to, other than we could, well, Brian, not me, because I know nothing, but Brian could see that the water line tied into the apartment complex in the front. So we suggested they go talk to them, that maybe they own the street. We don't know, but those are the kinds of things that we're trying to be proactive so that those things don't happen in the future. Our water ordinance. While pieces of this ordinance have been revised many times, there has never been a comprehensive review of this entire ordinance. What this did was actually create greater confusion as changes were made without consideration of how this would affect other parts of the ordinance. The latest review will include not only the rates, but the most up-to-date state and federal regulations and standards. And in addition, staff will present recommendations for a path going forward, which will include an actual plan built in to ensure that this ordinance is reviewed every 3 years. Again, it's important that we not only focus on the now, but we also focus on our future. And then the last thing I want to say is, and I struggled with this because I can't find the right words, but it's hard to find the right words to explain how much I appreciate our city staff. I am not a mushy-gushy person, and I'm not getting mushy now, but I will tell you this. The way that they research and study and present us with clear, complete information, it really does make it easier. It's clear from this report, just this report, that they have been busy. And I am so grateful for what's been accomplished. And it's only because of the dedication of our city, that our city staff is on, and the path that they want for much success. So I can only hope that our entire community understands what amazing people we have working here. And all I can say is a sincere and heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for all you do. And that's all I have. Okay. We are going to move on to, I think she wants to talk on.
Yes, we can pull number 4.
Okay. We do have one person signed up, but she's signed up, I think, to speak on item 4. So if you don't mind, I'll just wait and let you speak on that when that item comes up.
She's right here in the back.
Is that okay? Okay, perfect. Okay. With that, I don't have any more public comment. We'll move on to the city manager's report.
Okay, just a couple of items, and I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. This week, myself, staff, finance director, we are in our internal budget meetings preparing for the budget that we presented to you actually in just a couple of months. The only, the only other item I had, and this has been a topic that has come up once or twice over the past six or so months, the old Holiday Inn Express over by Applebee's that actually has caught on fire a couple of times now, but we are finally to the point. I signed the contract with Southwest Abatement yesterday. That contract is, in round figures, the amount of $260,000. They will be coming in to just remove the burned portion of the Holiday Inn Express. That is not the entire complex. It's just the area that caught fire and collapsed. We are still awaiting the final proposal for the rest of the old motel. And I'll bring that information forward. Obviously, that is not something we have budgeted in our abatement line item. We do have the 260, so that is moving forward, and we'll be able to, once that's complete, move the temporary fencing back farther from the Applebee's and, not the Waffle House, the IHOP. And like I said, as soon as we have the information, we'll hopefully have it so we can incorporate it into the upcoming budget. But it is going to be a very expensive project to take down the remaining of the remaining structures that are on that property. There is asbestos throughout. There is no way to go in and do a traditional abatement. So it'll have to be taken down, much as the old Sahara Apartments were, where they encapsulate it, spray the foam, and everything gets bagged and hauled out to the landfill. And that's a lot of building to take down.
We haven't heard from the property owner.
The property owner is not, unless Stella has heard recently, which I don't think she has, they are not responding to us. They're not responding to the state. They are nowhere in Alamogordo or in New Mexico for that matter. I think last we had, they were in California. Is that correct? Yeah.
So they just collected their insurance and took off, huh? Why not? Why not?
What type of recourse do we have against them?
Just like the other dilapidated
I
structures
mean-
that have come down, we already have liens against this property for past violations. With this, in round figures, $260,000. As soon as that work is performed and we pay the contractor, we'll place an additional lien on the property in that amount. And as we continue forward, ultimately, we will have to go to court, foreclose on the lien, or ask the courts to foreclose. We'll take possession of the property and sell and try and recoup some of the cost. I don't believe we'll be able to recoup the full cost to abate the property, but it's something that needs to be removed from the community.
Be a great place for apartments, wouldn't it? Just a thought.
That's
Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. And that's it? Okay. We will move on to remarks and inquiries by the city commission. Does anybody have anything? Commissioner McDonald.
I have one thing. This past week, Ed and I were able to go to Santa Fe for the New Mexico Main Street Winter Conference, and we attended with a couple of people from Main Street. I see Claudia in the audience, and it was really an eye-opener. One of the things I'd like to say, Alamogordo is not far, far behind. We have a great Main Street group, and when I went up there, I saw the number of people that they've had since I've been in office, which has been over 3 years. So they're still the same group, with the exception of the executive director. And so I really felt like it was really an eye-opener for us to see how Alamogordo is doing. There are other cities that are moving along too. I don't want to take away from what I saw. The speakers were excellent, they were exciting, and they had just a lot of energy. So I would like to say thank you to the Main Street for bringing that up. I did bring back material for the city of Alamogordo, and I gave it to Brian. And I told him I had to hold on to the book because I'd be sitting up here stumbling for words, but It was an excellent conference, and I would say if anybody else gets a chance for the next conference to go and see how we measure up to other cities in town, I mean, in the state. So I'll give you the book after the meeting. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? I really wanted to go, but this week I'm going up for the municipal league training, and it's probably a good thing I didn't plan that for last week, because I had a serious family emergency last week, so I would have had to cancel, and then I would have just looked silly. So I'm glad I didn't, but thank you for going. And I would love to sit at some point and share what you learned, because, Main Street has always been pretty important to me as well, and they're doing a phenomenal job down there. And if you have not been downtown lately, you're missing something, because it's pretty spectacular, and they're having a lot of great events down there. So I encourage everybody to do that. I did, and I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, but just to let everybody know, I did go up to Santa Fe for opening session, and I hung out with Commissioner Marquardt for the day. That was fun, and we were able to watch the Senate side. I'm going to try the training that I'm going to on Friday. It ends at noon, and then I'm going to try to head over to the Roundhouse and watch if there's anything to watch, I'm going to watch the House side. And then I'm planning on going up one more time sometime in March. So I'm doing that. And other than that, I can't think of anything else. Nobody has anything? No? Okay, great. All right. Well, we're going to move on then to the consent agenda. I believe we're pulling item 4. Nobody else says I will. Just get it out of the way. So we're going to pull item 4. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 4?
So moved.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner McDonald. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Melton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
that's my mic working? Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Rudin,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to the item pulled from the consent agenda. Item 4, consider and act upon the adoption and final publication of ordinance 1666. I do not like that ordinance number. Okay. Repealing Chapter 23, Article 23-02, the lodger's tax. And Stephanie Hernandez and Evelyn Huff have some information for us. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I apologize. First, we have one person signed up for that. I apologize. Sandy, is it Rodwick? Okay, Sandy Rodwick, if you want to come up here. If you want to state your name for the record.
Sandy Rodwick, I'm with the Alamogordo KOA.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to meet you in person. Oh my gosh. Okay, I just put a face with a name. Yes, how are you?
I'm good. However, so first time here, so I'm thinking you all just voted, so I don't know that this will help.
Oh, no, we pulled it off to talk about it. We haven't voted on this yet. Yeah.
I thought you meant you were.
No, we pulled it. We have not voted on it yet. No.
So I'm here this evening to share my concerns about getting rid of lodger's tax. And lodger's tax is just a pass-through to the city from our tax. I was told that the city feels that there are too many restrictions on how these dollars are spent. As I read the ordinance that was emailed to me, I don't see the restrictions, and just wondered if the restrictions could be amended. Without these dollars being used to help promote our great city for tourism, could be effective. I say could be effective because I have not done the research, and the tourism department would know better than I, but I understand that the city's already done away with that position. With these dollars, ads. With these dollars, ads were placed in magazines that went to our neighboring states and beyond. And as people arrive, they are greeted with great rack cards, brochures to share about our town, the things that people pick up in hotel lobbies and campground registration areas. People know about White Sands, but what about the other great things around our city to keep our guests here for another night or two? This is where more revenue comes in as they pay for admission, buy a souvenir, or go shopping at our grocery stores. As I know as for our budget does not allow to print these great materials that we've done in the past. We do our best to share verbally with folks, but people want to go to their campers, rooms, and relax and plan for their next day. Not everyone is tech savvy, so have these brochures is very important. I was told that marketing and advertising would not be hurt during the process, but if you've already eliminated the position, I feel it's already been hurt. So I thank you for your time.
Okay. So I would encourage you to listen to these two ladies because there is a plan, and there's a good plan. So it's not going away. It's absolutely not. So if you would like, they're going to give us some information on that.
Thanks.
So, and certainly if you have any questions, you can ask, but they are going to give us some information on that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I have lots of information for you.
I know.
So good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. Before you is the second reading to repeal the ordinance. But before I stand for questions, I want to address some of the false information that's been circulating through the community. What is being presented is we are doing away with tourism, making negative changes to tourism, or that we don't care about tourism. That we have eliminated the tourism position that was previously held by Michelle Bordeaux. That we are dividing the duties between Evelyn and I, the finance director and assistant city manager, and that we are finding the funding by cutting waste from other departments. I want to put on the record, we are not getting rid of tourism. That is not true. That is false information. In fact, where we had one person doing it, as well as that same person was doing marketing and communications, we pulled out the tourism and we have a separate position in addition to myself and Evelyn. So where we had one, we now have three. It is a fundamental part of our jobs and an important part of our community. The position is in finance, so that's how it was under me, and it went to finance in September of 2002. We have not hired that person because we wanted to look at the tourism and revamp the program, but we do plan on hiring. Evelyn and I have been looking to do a 5-year comprehensive plan. As you've heard the mayor speak, we're doing that throughout the city. So this isn't something that's new, it's just something that is needed, especially for our tourism. We are refocusing our tourism efforts for what suits Alamogordo. We don't like the cookie cutter advertising that has to be done. We are not cutting waste from all the departments just to fund this position, to fund marketing, tourism, or advertising. It's getting convoluted. It's two separate independent events, I guess you could say. City manager directed staff that all of us, all directors, have to look at each and every department, each line item, to look at the policies, to see if they make sense. Are they business friendly? Are they conducive to our citizens? We have come up with better plans in all our areas. As the mayor had said, we split up two very big departments so that we could be proactive rather than reactive. Because when departments get that big, that's pretty much all you're doing is putting out fires. We took out all the business licensing requirements and the fees associated with that, and we're looking at all of our ordinances. So lodger's tax, is just fell into the rotation and where we're looking at all the hundreds of areas. So again, it's all gone all the way up to the state. I want to make it very clear, we are not getting rid of tourism. We are making it inclusive of all businesses within the city. We are and a pretty robust program at that. I also want to mention some of the reasons that we felt this was a good idea to bring it to you. We did not bring it to you half-heartedly. We did a lot of research and a lot of thought. Neither Evelyn nor I could find any correlation between the advertising spent through lodger's tax on the effect of the lodger's tax or GRT. what we could clearly see is there is a correlation to what happens on base. The best example is the refugees. All the advertising that happened through the lodger's tax was to put heads in beds. We discovered that many programs were shot down by the previous tourism liaison because it was promoted day trips and not overnight heads in beds. We think that is fundamentally flawed. Like, I can't say that loud enough. We want people to come to our city. To us, a day trip, overnight trip, we want people here. Visit our zoo, visit our parks. We have 4th Fridays, Christmas on Main Street. We have a lot of events. I'm sure everyone up here and in this room has gone to Cloudcroft or Ruidoso, spent money, spent time, had a good time, but still came home to sleep in their own beds. That's why we believe it's flawed. The majority of the advertising was to promote businesses outside the city limits. If money is spent outside the city limits, it doesn't help us. We do not get any GRT from that. It is hard for us to justify spending that much money on businesses outside the city when you can drive right through the bypass, never set foot in Alamogordo, never spend $1 in Alamogordo. That does not help us at all. And I understand that some of the things that we are doing and saying is offending people, and I can promise you that is not our intent. You, as City Commission, gives us direction that we need to ask these hard questions, analyze the data, present it to you. We need to look at the spending patterns, and we have to come up with solutions, and we have to come up with good data so that we can make those informed decisions. We should not just be doing things because we can, because it's there. We should not be spending money because it's there. In the previous meeting, we talked about waste, the time constraints on the state statute, and the restrictions on the funding. But I also want to discuss that wasn't the only considerations that we had. We asked the question actually, is the lodger's tax double taxation? In our opinion, it is, because GRT is charged and the lodger's tax is charged. We believe that if our vision and our plan to revamp the tourism program is successful, and we believe that it will be, that our GRT will naturally go up. And it'll help all the businesses, it'll help the city. We also, and I'm sure everybody here remembers the detrimental effects that COVID had. At one point, the lodging industry had to go down to 25% capacity, and then they slowly creeped up to 50% capacity, and then 75% capacity. There was at least one local hotel that had come to the city and was struggling and asked us to waive the lodger's tax and let them keep the revenue. Per ordinance at that time, we could not do that. They are still struggling with some of the effects of COVID. For years, other considerations, for years, we've been hearing that we lose people to Las Cruces who come visit White Sands. I just want to give you a couple of numbers here. In Las Cruces, if you spend the night there, taxes come out to 16%. If you go to Ruidoso, the taxes come out to 15%. In Alamogordo, if Commission repeals this tax, our tax will be 8% on the tax if they choose to reduce their prices. Of course, they have the option to keep the 5% as a service fee. But 8% in Alamogordo as opposed to 16% in Las Cruces. That's making our town the more affordable choice. And if anybody has traveled, you know that every dollar counts, especially if you have family that you're traveling with. Also, and it's come up recently, if you Google White Sands National Park, you get Las Cruces, not Alamogordo. That is true, but Las Cruces pays for that top spot. There has never been a fully developed plan to change that narrative by using the lodger's tax. It's been a complaint, it's been a talking point, but it's never been a real plan. Working with Evelyn and our new marketing person, her name is Bailey, we are fleshing that plan out fully. We are fleshing it out to be inclusive of businesses, all of them within the city. We have a tentative solid plan that we will include in our 5-year plan, but we think that it should be up and running in 12 months. It includes a website. We purchased a domain, White Sands. whitesandsnationalpark.com. That's the domain that we will be rolling out here in the next 12 months, I hope, and that it will be inclusive of all of our business partners within Alamogordo. Should commission repeal this tax, our plan moving forward to include the domain is that I have been very big on sports tourism. I've read a lot about it, I've wanted a plan for long, and it's never come to fruition until now. We have spoken to, I can't think of the company, I know his name is J.D. Wood, and he is giving us a plan and hopes to have a market analysis and marketing opportunity for sports complexes, and along with that comes tournaments that they opt into because of their network. We will also be promoting everything Alamogordo, everything, restaurants, businesses, and yes, we will be promoting our lodging industry as well. We will also be promoting our local attractions and events. I want everyone here to consider that our zoo, on a bad week, brings in 700 visitors a week. On a good week, it's upward of 2,500 or more. Our Gus Smacker event that happened in November had 880 participants. They were from 5 different states and 66 different cities. Our Civic Center just recently hosted a karate tournament. There were 6 New Mexico cities, 3 Arizona cities, and 2 Texas cities. We plan to have 2 more of those planned. When we do our 4th Fridays, there's an average of about 800 people. The 4th of July event that we hosted, it had about 8,000, or 4,000, I'm sorry, and the Zoo Boo had about 4,000 as well. None of these were promoted the way it should have been. We need to get our events back into the city. We need to include tournaments, competitions, and we need to increase the quality of life for our citizens and make a welcoming environment for our guests. Alamogordo is a unique city. Although we like to compare ourselves to our neighboring communities, we acknowledge and pride ourselves on being small enough to have that hometown feel and big enough to encourage and host events and the unique experiences. I have so much more I could possibly say, but I know Evelyn wants to chime in, so I'll let Evelyn take the floor, and then we'll stand for questions.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, I will be quick because I know Stephanie had a lot. So I just wanted to talk about what we've been doing, who I've been working with recently about the tourism. Again, to second what Stephanie was saying, we are not doing away with tourism. Either way that you vote tonight, we will have a tourism program. You're just determining how we're going to fund it and what parameters we're going to operate that program within. We want to be able to open those parameters, to be able to embrace everything that goes on in our community. I grew up here, and up until this Christmas, I really hadn't shopped local here. But I'd been involved with tourism at that point for about 3 months. And so I went to the local bodega, I went to Roadrunner Emporium, I went to the Bluestone, I even went to our gift shop at the zoo. All of things that I had learned starting with the tourism and what we needed to look at to push. And I think we need to consider that trend and build that trend out. If those people are just coming up here for a day, if they're just gonna come have a meal, shop in our local stores, then we need to encourage their feet on the street just as much as we need to encourage their head in the bed. And so I really would like to say, you know, we still plan on participating in the co-op program that's put on by the Tourism Department. That's the New Mexico True program. That's what you see and what they promote nationally. It's a great program, and of course we don't want to move away from it. We just want to fund it differently. We want to finish the development of the White Sands Partnership Program like Stephanie talked about, where we can sign people up and we can push things through our website and have an active local website that talks about White Sands, that gives you local information about coming to visit that park. We want to develop a program to help compete for travel groups, the small to medium-sized bus tours, where we can develop the literature and items necessary to compete at the trade shows, attend those trade shows, and get our name out there that if you're coming in with a group for the weekend, we're a perfect place to be for a couple nights. We can even tie that in with our partnership that we have with Tularosa Basin Historical Society, La Luz Pottery, all of these items that the Tularosa Basin Society has so much information that we can help develop those. The other thing that we'd also like to look at, similar to what Stephanie was talking about, is in the day trips, is developing a robust local tourism program. Getting all of us back out there with our families and with our visiting family members. When's the last time you went to Oliver Lee State Park? Or went to the Space Hall? Or went to some of these places that we used to go all the time when we were kids because there were, field trips and everything like that. Let's get those back in our mind so that when our family does come to visit, that's where we're taking them. And that's where then they're telling their friends. We also want to continue to develop our relationships with local organizations to support their events, develop day trip itineraries and campaigns to be able to push out to our drivable communities, push out to El Paso, push out to Las Cruces and say, hey, drive over here for the day. We know we drive over there for the day. Let's try and get them to come over here. Same thing, Stephanie talked about the sports tourism. The other thing that we really need to consider is being able to have our programs flexible enough that we can tailor them to the season. It's really hard to encourage somebody to come stay in the community if there's a big construction project going on at White Sands and there's nowhere to stay. I've had even auditors, when they've come in to do our annual audit, not be able to get a hotel room. We've had IT contractors not be able to get hotel rooms. So when that sort of situation is happening, we need to be able to quickly turn our program around and push the day trips harder and push the things harder because you might not be able to actually get a hotel room in Alamogordo. And of course, we want to work more one-on-one with social media influencers. I've learned so much about that recently, and it's amazing some of the stuff they do. And, they come in, they have a good time, they can make your community look so beautiful and so open to the different people that they are followed by. So we definitely want to continue that. So our biggest thing is we want to work with all businesses and continuously work with them. Stephanie and I have fleshed out, we talked about like the first 3 years of the tourism program. And one of the things that is going to be a benchmark for that program is they're going to have to go meet with at least 5 to 10 local businesses a week. Go, just sit down, hear what their concerns are, hear what the things that they're doing, meet with Main Street monthly, meet with the Chamber monthly, and not in big committee meetings, but one-on-one, what's going on, what's the concerns, let's get out there, let's get moving. So, again, no matter how you vote tonight, we're going to have a tourism program. We're just asking you to try something unique and try something different. And I was talking to Stephanie this afternoon and saying that, with all these ordinance rewrites and everything that her and Brian have tasked us with, they've asked us to look at the ordinances through the lens of what would we like to do, not what we've done. So you're going to start seeing this more. This is not the first time, and it's not going to be the last time that you're going to see us bringing an ordinance to you that's pretty different than what we have now. I currently am working on the water ordinance. It's going to be different. And so that's because we've been challenged by Brian and Stephanie to come up with new ideas, bring those to you, and let you guys hash them out. If you like them, great. That's more for us. If you want something different, we'll go back and try again. So this is just right along with the same thing that we've been tasked to do.
Okay, I have a question. Ms. Roderick asked about the brochures. Are we still going to have that kind of information?
Absolutely. So we pay a company called Card Source Limited, I think. And what we do is we print usually 10 to 15,000 brochures at a time, and we distribute those, and they're responsible for going around and stocking the card racks in all of, Lubbock, Amarillo. We, as the city, we kind of get to choose where our target areas is. And so, yeah, of course, we're totally going to continue that program. And,
The content might be a little different.
the content's probably going to be different, and we might do them in smaller batches so that we can keep them a little bit more
Circulated.
current, so we can keep them a little bit more seasonal. I travel a lot. I spend quite a bit of time in hotel rooms, and there's definitely times where I'm like, oh, that's a magazine that was there last month. Okay, and I don't pick it up again. So we definitely want to keep that fresh and everything. But yes, we plan to continue that contract along with a lot of the other contracts we have. We have one with NMCO that helps us with a lot of our marketing, helps us with a lot of our website design and keeping that content fresh and everything. So we definitely want to continue those partnerships. And everything that I've asked, every contractor that I've spoken to in the last 4 weeks, that we've really ramped up talking to all the contractors, is what are we not doing now that you think we should be doing? And every single one of them has had an answer for us, whether it's email blasts, whether it's promoting day trips, whether it's, one suggestion that I kind of put the nix on is cannabis tourism. I was like, I don't think we're ready for that yet, so let's not do that.
Eye roll.
But that was it,
See
give us-
this, ready?
Tell
Eye
us
roll.
what your ideas are, and we'll go there. So, yes, we definitely do not plan to abandon everything that we're doing now. That's probably fine.
All right, I've had a couple questions from citizens myself. Some people see this as a 5% tax that we're just doing away with, so we're not bringing in that money from an outside source. How, as the city, are we gonna make that up, that 5% that we're not bringing in on lodger's tax? And what is that dollar amount?
So as I had stated, we believe that what we have going forward is going to be beneficial to Alamogordo, everybody. We believe that we can bring people to this community because it is a great community, and the path that we have laying forward, we're still hashing it out, it's going to increase GRT. It's going to more than make up because our GRT right now is 8%, whereas the lodger's tax is 5%. We believe that we can make that up easily, and once we start getting this going, making sure it's what Alamogordo needs, making sure we promote our city in a way that's beneficial to everybody.
And can you talk about is it the co-op program or what?
The co-op grant?
Yeah.
So the co-op grant, we spoke,
I know you explained it last time, but if you could explain it again. There's a lot of people watching, I'm sure,
So-
so.
the co-op grant is a match program that the state puts for governments, for tribal communities, for businesses, 501(c)(3)s. There's a lot of people who can opt into this, and it's a matching program. So you put your interest in, you develop a plan, an advertising plan, a marketing plan, and you tell them this is how much we want. This year we got 300 and something thousand, and our match was 100,000 because it was a 2-to-1 match. So through that, there's print ads, digital ads, social media, billboards. There's just so much. There's magazines. There's so much in that co-op grant that we can do that we plan on keeping because that is a very great, positive grant that helps the city, that we have flexibility to change the content, to market the content. So we are going to use that. And we spoke to the cabinet secretary, and I can't think of his name, but we do not have to have lodger's tax in order to participate in that. That was a big question mark, and
Right.
yeah.
In full disclosure, I had a meeting with Evelyn, and he was actually the director of tourism. Lansing. He has an
Lansing
interesting
Adams.
name, yes,
He's
Lansing.
the acting assistant secretary of tourism.
For tourism, yes. And then both of our state senators, and the question was asked, can we do this? And apparently the problem is nobody wanted to answer the question at the state. And so I finally just said, okay, well, let's just go straight to the top, and we basically did. And the answer, although hesitantly, was yes. And I don't think it was hesitantly because they weren't sure. It was hesitantly because, this is something new, this is something different, and it's outside the box. It's thinking outside the box. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm a little baffled as to why we've received so much pushback. I think that anyway, I'm sorry, you had another question, but I just wanted to tell everybody I did have that meeting, and there was definitely, the answer was definitely, yes, we could do this.
Yeah, well, I think the perception that I've gotten from a couple calls is just the fact that we're not bringing in, we're not having outsiders pay tax into our community, and we're gonna have to pull it out of our local, what you and I pay on the street, tax-wise.
They will still be paying tax because they're
Yeah.
paying the gross receipts tax.
But we're not
So-
bringing in the lodger's tax.
And
from
that is
outside.
correct. I mean, like I said, there's no argument with that.
Yeah.
You know, we know that it will decrease the lodger's tax revenue. Our goal is to increase the gross receipts tax to the point where it will even out. Will that happen the first year? No, I'm gonna tell you it's not. It's not gonna happen the first year because it's going to take some time to get everything implemented that we wanna get implemented. So, you know, we do have to look at cost savings and making sure that we're using our money wisely towards things that are actually benefiting us and not just spending it because it needs to get spent, so.
Sure.
So can you talk, did you have another question?
Yeah, I have one more,
Oh,
but go
okay,
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if you could explain because obviously some of the lodger's tax, it pays for civic center operations, I believe. So can you explain to that of, if we're not bringing in lodger's tax to pay for that, is that just gonna be coming out of the general fund as well?
Correct, so it would operate out of the general fund, because right now it's being considered as a building that brings in overnight stays. That's probably not the greatest definition of the civic center, and partially this is kind of one of those things that's always been that way. And so we've been looking at that more. So yes, the civic center would be funded out of the general fund, which in previous years, up until pretty much getting things back on from COVID, it has been receiving money from the general fund. It has not been substantiating itself. So this year was good because we did have the money from the refugees, and that has helped their cash balance. But when I first came over to finance, it would have been fiscal year 2018, and then especially fiscal year 2019, we had to cut their budget substantially. And we cut their budget substantially, and we subsidized them substantially from the general fund.
So not a lot of loss there. So then you're only talking about the advertising portion or the tourism, however you want to say, it was about $250,000?
Yes, on a normal year for Fund 16, it's about 250, and then it goes, you know, up and down depending.
And the grant that we're talking about, really, I guess the sky's the limit with that, right? Is there a limit on that, or?
We put in what we want to do, how much it's gonna cost us, and then the state will, we can go from 10,000 to, I think is there a cap that happened?
So a lot of it too depends on how much the state allocates to tourism. When we first started with the grant, the state actually had a very small tourism budget, and so the match we were getting was like 30,000. You know, because they just didn't have a lot to allocate. That in recent years has really changed because their approach to the New Mexico Troop program and their tourism, the legislature's been allocating more and more. So, like I said, this year, actually, I think this year was probably the highest amount that we had put in. We kind of thought we were asking for the moon, and they were like, okay.
So they gave it to us.
So they gave it to us.
And how much was that?
We put in about 150,000, it's like 145,000, and then they matched it 2 to 1. I think it's higher than that. We can look, but, oh, she's got it. So, and then they match it 2 to 1, and then everything that you do through there goes through their brand resource hub. So, the total value of the grant this year was $323 and $323,370. New Mexico Tourism pitched in $215,580, and then we committed $107,790. And then we did also get an additional flex program that gave us about another $11,000.
Okay.
And so all of that goes through the New Mexico Tourism Department. They do all of the ad placements. They contact all of the vendors. To design the ads, you have to go through their brand resource hub, and you have to use an approved picture. You get 5 words to do your New Mexico True Statement. It can't be a command. It has to be a sentence. And so then you design all of that in their brand resource hub, you submit it to the state, they approve it, and then they do the placement. So you get to choose, do you want print, do you want digital, everything like that, but then they actually do the placement, whether it be in the New Mexico Monthly Magazine. We have one coming out in June in the Texas Monthly Magazine. You can opt in to do a billboard, you can opt in to do social media influencers. So it's a very useful program, and it's something that they push on a national level.
And so by not using lodgers tax dollars for that, we have more, I guess, liberties, right, with our advertising?
So not through this program, no.
Not through this,
We
okay.
would have more liberties with, so in this case, it's $107,000. So about the total budget for that fund is about $250,000. So our opportunities then would be to use the other $108,000 that would not have to be used on the 60 miles out of town rule that's currently under lodgers tax. And the question is, does it bring overnight travelers? What does it bring? That would open us up to be able to set a budget of however much you guys wanted to set. And then also be able to use that to, promote what's going on in Main Street, to promote, things that might not bring a lot of out-of-town people to stay the night, but might bring out-of-town people to participate.
See, I would suggest that it will bring people in to stay overnight. I was talking to Commissioner Wright here, who apparently has not gotten with it yet because he has not been to the Tularosa Basin Historical Society.
So that would
I
be a
just
local
outed
tourism
him.
program.
I just outed him. You could literally, if you haven't been there, you need to go, because you could literally spend 3 hours in there. Easily spend 3 hours in there, if not longer. So you could come to Alamogordo, spend 3 hours in there. You could go to the Space Center and spend a few hours in there. You could go eat in our restaurant. I mean, you could literally have a 2-day stay in Alamogordo just checking out all of the things we have that we're not currently promoting. And I think that's the frustration for me, is we have so much to offer in our city. You could spend a day doing the Ghost and History Tour downtown. You could spend.
Which I had no idea about until we started this process, and Brian brought it up. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
"What
know.
are you talking about?"
Someday I'm gonna get to that, I promise. You could go tour the Dudley School when it's finished. You could go, there's just so much to do in Alamogordo that people are just not aware of. We have so much to offer in our community, and we're not promoting it the way we should. And I think that's why this is so appealing to me, because I'm excited that we get to golf, if you like to golf. Not a golfer, but there's a lot of golfers. I know you're a golfer, right? And come over here and golf. Why aren't we doing that? And I've said that. I've always said, why aren't we having, like, I don't know, soccer tournaments here and softball tournaments? And my grandkids are sports people, and I'm constantly traveling to other cities for that stuff. Why aren't we doing that right here in our community? So I hear what you're saying about day trips, but I gotta tell you, I honestly believe that people are gonna come over here and they're gonna see all we have, and they're gonna decide, I wanna go spend a couple of days there, 'cause.
And that's the idea too, is that we can build Alamogordo into what people see as a hub as well. Is that, okay, we did a day trip to Alamogordo last year and we never got a chance to go up to Cowcroft. So this year, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do a day in Alamogordo, we're gonna spend a night, we're gonna go up, we're gonna do some time in Cloudcroft, then we're gonna come down, have dinner, spend another night, and go home on Sunday. Those are the kind of things that we're going to task the tourism position in getting the information out so that people can look at it and say, oh, yeah, you know, here's 10 things on this itinerary. We want to do 5 of them. Let's check that off. And get it out there, and also be able to do the events. Like, I'm sure Brian and Stephanie are really sick of hearing this example, but I went to a horse show in a really small town in Arizona, and they were having these huge arts and crafts festival. And I was like, where do these people stay? There's literally nowhere to stay in this little town. They're like, oh, they drive in from Tucson, and they come in from here, and they come in from here, and stuff. And it was like, wow, like, this little town is not scared to put on this huge festival that, you know, they know they're not going to be able to have people in it, but they center it around, hey, come to our town anyway.
And we can tailor our advertising for those things as well. Yeah. Yeah, because we do have a lot, we have a lot of, all that kind of stuff. We got Christmas on Main Street. Was it called Christmas on Main Street? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has anybody ever been to Christmas on Main Street? It's
Yeah.
like phenomenal.
And that's something
Phenomenal.
we should be
Yeah.
peppering El Paso and Las Cruces with.
Or even our Fourth Friday events, or, anyway, okay, I'm going to shut up now. Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
In the event that we don't repeal the lodger's tax, where do we go from there? What do we do?
So I'm going to give you my happy, sappy answer, and then I'll let Stephanie go. We're still going to have a tourism program. We're still going to have a tourism position. We're just going to have to approach it answering those 4 questions for the money that they're using from the Lodgers Fund. And so then I will let Stephanie do her part.
Can I ask a question there, just since you touched on that? Are we not able to do a hybrid approach to where you use the lodger's tax, but then we supplement to advertise for these other, you know, day trip ideas?
So yes, if that's commission's direction, we can make that happen. We will, right now, our 100% focus is local business, local, everything local, local business, local, yeah. That's what our focus is right now. If we go to a hybrid, there are a lot of requirements that we have to keep up with. So it's going to take away from that, and it's going to make us put a lot more effort and time and energy into making sure we stay up on those statutes, on those guidelines. We can do it if that's commission, 100% we can do it if that's commission's direction. There are, like I said, several restrictions that prevent us from doing what we really want to do. And I'm not going to look at my boss because I haven't run this by him. I'm going to get on my, I'm going to get on a soapbox a little bit right now. If the direction and the commission keeps the lodger's tax, and if it really truly is about the citizens of Alamogordo, about tourism in Alamogordo, my hope is that the same people who were extremely vocal and concerned about losing the tax, to include commission, that you help us in Santa Fe with some of the language and verbiage because of those restrictions. When speaking to people outside the community, when we told them about the 2-year restriction, they were kind of dumbfounded and surprised. That causes us to we can't make long-term decisions. We can't leverage it for debt right now because of our bonding capacity. And I just hope that those in Santa Fe, those around, would help us with that, because if it truly is for the city of Alamogordo, that's going to be what benefits us. We have an auditorium, our pool is coming out of life. We have an auditorium that we're looking to build. We cannot use this money because it's not enough, and we don't have the bonding capacity, and we have to use it within 2 years. We have the Chaparral School. When they move, we have that green space to develop into a facility. But we can't use this money because of the 2-year restrictions. We need to build the fund balance so that we can leverage both bonding capacity and fund balance. And I think that that's just as important. And also what I would like to see happen is to kind of take that 40/60 and make it a little more to where we can use it to put to the facilities. Because a great facility and great events are equally important as billboards and print, you know, get people here. So I'm off my soapbox, and I hope my boss won't fire me.
Have we ever had to return unused money to the state after 2 years, or did we just spend it on?
We've never returned it, we've just spent it.
Do you have a rough estimate of the money raised via the lodger's tax? How much of that is actually for necessary items, and how much of that are we just forced to spend to get rid of it?
roughly speaking, we have kind of looked at paring back, okay, that was the overall top level. Pare back the spending, what do we need just to survive? As of course, it varies throughout the year, so giving you an overall for the past 5 years is kind of difficult, but just taking this last year, I would say a good 100,000-ish was spent that benefits the Alamogordo, such as the co-op grant. As far as the Civic Center, it's kind of questionable if we should have been using it for that.
So, okay, what did you say about
So
100?
paring back all the spending that we have, I know that as part of marketing and the marketing portion of it, probably a good 100,000-ish was really put at good advertising, social media, print, digital, et cetera. The other wasn't really, my opinion, wisely
Is
spent.
that per year?
About, more or less, depending, like, it fluctuates, so, yeah.
So you're saying $100,000 a year was all that was spent on advertising Alamogordo?
Wisely.
Is that what you're saying?
Effectively.
That was my question.
Effectively.
Wisely, yes.
Are we using this effectively
Yeah.
or just
And
throwing
that's
it
why
away?
we feel very confident that we
Not
can.
on water bottles and T-shirts
Right.
and.
That's why we feel that it's very easy. We've worked very hard to get the general fund in a great position. That's why we feel that it's going to benefit the hotel industry. It's going to benefit Alamogordo. It's, in our opinion, it's a win-win. But we can do anything that commission would like.
Yeah, one more. If we do decide to do this tonight and we kind of take over, are we gonna start trying to do, you know, one of the biggest events I remember from my entire life here was our Cottonwood Festival. Are we gonna start trying to do things like that as well, again, and promote those?
And then I'll let you. So yes, so as part of, as Evelyn said, when we get the person in, it's going to be about benchmarks. Go meet with 10 people, go meet with, along with those same benchmarks, we need to have one event that we haven't had. We need to have one event per quarter we haven't had before. We need to bring back events that once existed. So our goal over the next 5 years is to bring back events like that and create new ones. Evelyn?
Yeah, for sure. I'm big on nostalgia, and that was something that we've talked a lot. We talked about the
big one.
Cottonwood. The other thing we've talked about, and seeing Commissioner Melton with the pin on made me think about it. You remember every year, there was a new pin every year. And actually, when we did the dedication here at the commission chambers, you know, Mayor Carroll's wife gave us a box,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, that had the pins in it. I think it's in Brian's office.
My
Where'd it
office.
go? It's on his shelf.
Still in my office.
You know, so I think like teaming something like that with the Cottonwood Festival, and it's also the, you know, unveiling of the limited edition Alamogordo pin, that then everybody starts looking and says, hey, you know what, every year Alamogordo comes out with a new pin, and it's something that you can have. Because that's something I remember a lot from my childhood too, was that, you know, my dad getting the pins and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's been in our thing when we've been talking about the tourism position, is working with the local partners and saying, okay, what did we used to do that we haven't done? Let's bring it back. Let's think about it for, obviously, you know, the modern age and stuff. But yeah, all of that, the spooktacular and, you know, all those things that we used to have, you know, all the time.
Okay.
I just have one. How far outside of Alamogordo do you plan on advertising?
Everywhere we can, as long as we believe it's something that benefits Alamogordo. We will promote, we will keep the co-op grant where we plan on going out to those areas, like we'll choose where we want to. And then, of course, we're going to go right up the road to Cloudcroft, you know, so Cruces, El Paso, our local area, and we will do national stuff as well.
No, I think just seconding what you said there, especially about, you know, we should be also peppering El Paso and Las Cruces with our events. Like, there was one point last year, I knew more about the Deming duck races than because, I mean, they were on everything. They were on our radio, they were on, you know, they had sponsored ad on Facebook, they had things, because what were they doing? They were pushing it out towards communities that were in driving range of going to the Deming duck races. You know, and so that's something that we need to really look at. And yes, can we pull people from Amarillo and Lubbock and, you know, Albuquerque and stuff? You know, absolutely. And That's where the New Mexico True program is huge for that. But we also need to look at pulling the people that can drive an hour and a half and come to our event too.
And were we not doing that before?
No.
I met
That's our
with-
hybrid version of our vision going forward, is to have that mixture that allows that flexibility to do it all.
I met with Josh Sides the other day for something different. And between now and May, I can't remember, he said he either had 14 or 17 events between now and May. That's a lot.
And that's one of the reasons.
That's a lot of events.
And that's one of the reasons that talking about this position, we don't want to put more events on Josh. Josh has plenty of things that Josh has
Right.
to do, and he has responsibilities towards the Civic Center.
Right.
So we want this position to be able to come in and focus on doing one or two things that
Right.
are more tourist-driven than some of the stuff that Josh has to focus on. And this position can also help Josh, and obviously Josh can help this position.
Right.
But yeah, Josh has plenty to do.
Yeah, but my point is like, if people come here for different things, we have all these events between now and May. Anybody that comes into Alamogordo for any reason, they're gonna see quickly that there's plenty to do. I mean, there's plenty of these extra events that they can go to.
And part of our White Sands partnership is having a calendar of events. You can Google White Sands, there's our website, there's a calendar of everything going on in Alamogordo. And I know that the chamber has something like that as well, but this is kind of geared towards that whole, you Google White Sands, you don't see anybody but Las Cruces.
Got a couple questions or comments. I think all the ideas are great. I just don't necessarily, I guess, fully understand. I've had quite a few calls this week for people that are saying, hey, don't repeal this tax. And to an extent, I can kind of somewhat understand. And my question would be is, why haven't we done these things in the past? I think your marketing approach for the city to drive, whether it's day trips or overnight stays, has to be multi-pronged. We can't just rely on the lodger's tax and what that allows us to do to generate what the tourism is in our community. And so I'm kind of hard pressed to think that all of a sudden now we're just gonna automatically bring all this in-house and then wait, however many number of years until it's truly successful. So if we took and looked at it from the perspective of, we're gonna increase the GRT in the community, well, at 8%, I don't know what the breakdown rate on what we keep out of that 8% is, but if just hypothetically speaking, at $3 million, that would generate at 8%, $240,000. So if we're not keeping that full 8%, we would have to generate an additional $3 million per year to make up for what the lodger's tax currently on a bad year or average year brings to us. And so, go ahead.
So to address your first, we're doing this now because we were tasked to do this now, to look at everything that we are
Right.
doing, everything that we're spending. That is why we are coming to you now. Why it hasn't been done in the past is because it wasn't part of the Tourism Promotion Board ideals, or I guess not even ideals, it's part of the best practices for the state. That's why it hadn't been done. There was a lot of pushback that even we weren't aware of when people wanted to use the lodger's tax by the previous person, that it just wasn't, we didn't realize this, but it just was pretty much shut down because it didn't promote heads and beds. Sorry, what else did you have? I'm sorry.
Making up the revenue.
So making up the revenues, so I challenge anyone to tell me how lodger's tax has benefited them. I do challenge that. I've asked that question to numerous businesses. How has your hotel benefited from the lodger's tax?
Right, and I
How
think
has
that's,
businesses? How has the restaurants? How? Are we really, it really hasn't been as successful in the 50-plus years. If it was, we'd be big as Cruces, big as Albuquerque. I just want to challenge that thought, is how it's been here in existence
yeah.
for 50 years.
And I think that's a valid question to ask, and I you know, the counter side with that would be, well, then how effective have we been in, you know, using that? You know, I mean, would be an argument. And I guess another question I have is, have there been other communities in the state that have done away with the lodger's tax? And if so, what communities is that, and have they been
We
successful?
were told that this is the first, and I think that's why we're getting a lot of pushback up north. Like I said, we are different. We are not North New Mexico, Northern New Mexico. We are Southern New Mexico, and I can even say we're not anything like Las Cruces. I lived there for 21 years, and Alamogordo is unique.
But it should be said that not every community in New Mexico that has lodger's tax uses it in the way that Alamogordo uses it. There are many uses that can be put to the lodger's tax.
Right.
Just like there could be a different rate. The 5% is not set in stone.
Right.
Other communities use it to fund, build, construct, design convention centers.
Right.
Other communities used it for the pot of money, the surety money for regional jet service. Had nothing to do with advertising.
Right,
and
and
tourism.
that'd be one of my other points, is obviously Alamogordo's working towards that point of trying to land regional jet service, whether it'll happen in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, who knows, kind of to be determined. But if we do away with this tax, then that eliminates that other potential source of monies to make up for those types of things too.
Go ahead.
Maybe Evelyn's got a comment towards that.
So on that note, I could see a path where we repeal it now, we establish a tourism program that is not based on lodger's tax. And then if 2 or 3 years down the road, we're closer with regional jet service, then you could reinstate it with the eye towards regional jet service, knowing that you're not going to have to redo your tourism program because your tourism program is not based on the lodger's tax. So I think that, and the same thing with what Brian was saying about convention centers. We repeal it and we establish a tourism program and stuff, and you come back and say, you know, we have very solid plan for a very viable convention center. We're going to bring it back and we're going to devote it to that without then having to turn around and try and retool your tourism program to fit that in there. So, you know, I think we can get a tourism program, which I truly, truly believe we could, get a strong tourism program that is not dependent on the lodger's tax. It will free you and the rest of the commission up to come back later and look at one of the many uses that Brian's talking about. Like I said, without having to you know, scroll back and say, okay, well, maybe we're not going to participate in this tourism program because we want to go this direction.
And on that, just to piggyback a little bit on that, repealing it today doesn't mean we can't ever get it back. It's not an end-all. I think it's something that gives us local control as opposed to being tied to what state statute says. I think that's important, especially for this community. I also think, as I hat back onto my little soapbox, that the statute does need to change to allow us some more flexibility because we are so different and we don't get the amount that Albuquerque gets. We don't get the amount that Las Cruces gets. We don't have right now, as the state statute stands, it doesn't give us the flexibility to put towards regional jet. It doesn't, anything. We don't get that much to be able to utilize it that way.
So, but wouldn't having some type of hybrid approach allow for that? I mean, obviously, I think you stated that it would increase potential workload for, I don't know whoever steps into the new role or not. Just one of the things that I've heard, you know, and I think that if you repeal this now, and then in 2 or 3 years, we're coming back asking for it again, commission people, you know, commissioners may have changed. We don't know where people will stand. The community's going to look at it, potential business, you know, hoteliers are going to say, well, what the heck, you know, and you're going to probably potentially have more pushback at that point in time than we do now for.
So that's a very valid point that we've definitely have thought about. We still believe this is the best path forward. If in the future, if a commission wants to, that commission wants to put this back in and agrees to, we don't have to do the full 5%. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus there's an additional, I think it's a $2.50 tax that can be implemented outside of that. There's restrictions, of course, on that as well, but I just recommend we try something different. we can do a hybrid, and it's not a matter of workload. City staff is awesome. We'll work till midnight if we have to. It's not workload. It's just, is that the best pathway for, we're still doing the national stuff. But we want to pull it to be more locally focused, and that this governing body has the control as opposed to up north.
Okay, let me ask one more question. I know we've dragged this out, but I just want to make sure that,
I like talking about it. We can talk about it all night.
I know.
No, you
No,
can't.
I'm actually really tired of talking about it, to be honest with
Brian's
you.
tired of Evelyn and I as well.
But I do want to ask, what have we focused on in terms of advertising?
So the majority of the advertising has been outside of the city. That's why I think it's really important that we look
Okay,
at
what do
that.
you mean outside of the city? Like, what are we
Businesses-
advertising?
Businesses outside of the city. such
Businesses
as-
outside of the city?
Yes, I don't want to drop names or anything, but it's just been a lot of White Sands, a lot of White Sands National Park, which I get is important, but I think there was too much on White Sands because that's that's.
Because
anyways.
when they leave White Sands, they still have a choice.
And they can hit the bypass.
They can go left
Go
or right.
to, the
Yeah.
pistachio farms, go to anything that's out past us. You can literally bypass Alamogordo and not spend it. So I don't think it's really conducive to the city of
Okay,
Alamogordo.
what else besides White Sands? Other things outside the city?
Yes, ma'am. Businesses outside the city. I think at some point we were even advertising some stuff in Cloudcroft.
The other day when I was down here, they were looking at it, and we are advertising Tularosa, Cloudcroft, Ruidoso. You know, I mean, if we're gonna spend that money to market ourselves, we don't wanna market the other entities around us that are gonna take it and, give that money to Ruidoso, so.
I agree.
And I think part of that is because those are tourists. Those are the skiing, those are the, tourist communities. So that's an easy to advertise, even though it's not the city of Alamogordo. It's still, hey, drive by, or stop by Alamogordo on your way up to Cloudcroft when you're going to here. I think that was the whole, logic behind that. Again, I think it was flawed.
So no businesses or anything inside our city?
There are some. It wasn't the main focal point. It was more about the tourist attractions, which you can argue, are they true tourist attractions or not, but I'm not going to get to that argument. I'm going to get off my soapbox because I will get fired after this meeting.
So could we have advertised with lodger's tax stuff inside our city? Could we have done that?
So the lodger's tax best practices say that it should be spent at least 60 miles outside of the city. You're not supposed to use lodger's tax to advertise within your city, because the purpose of marketing with lodger's tax is to turn around and increase lodger's tax by having people stay in your facilities.
Right, but could we have advertised stuff within our city?
Depends, yes, but it has to be considered a tourist attraction.
A tourist
And
attraction?
it has to be geared at getting people here to stay the night. That is the whole purpose of the lodger's tax. Yes, we can. Can we do Main Street? I think everyone was included in an email. It got pulled because it's a great event, Christmas on Main Street. I love to use that as an example, but it got pulled from tourism because it wasn't heads and beds.
Okay, so it wasn't considered a tourist
Yes,
attraction?
that is the whole core of what.
I think
lodger's tax
that's
is.
where the appeal is for me, is being able to advertise all the festivals and the things we have, the local attractions that we're not able to do right now, and I think that's the big appeal for me, but.
Got one more question
Yes.
for staff. I don't know if it's Brian or Evelyn, but in the event, right now, we're in a pretty decent place as far as the general fund goes. It looks like America as a whole is heading for some hard times. When our budgets start to lean out a little bit due to the fact that everything's down, are we gonna be able to sustain the advertising out of
Absolutely.
Fund 11?
Absolutely. So you got two finance directors here who are all about data, all about numbers. We have all about the being the economics pat on. Yes, if we ever get to that point, we don't need to be here. honestly. We are in such a good position because we are very conservative when we budget. We don't budget and like huge growth. We are very conservative. We always under-project and we over-deliver.
Well, I think that's a big, one of the biggest concerns is that we won't spend as much money on
That's
advertising.
our
But
concern every single day. Like,
Yeah,
we are always, I mean, we
I've,
can't get
I've
past
been
that.
here when we've had to do substantial cuts, you know, and furloughs and layoffs and.
I will tell you, I came in 2019 and I was like, what the heck is City of Alamogordo doing? Because that was the horrible year of overspending the year before and huge cutbacks. As long as the three of us are here, that will not happen.
Okay.
I can give you our word on that one, unless like, the City of Alamogordo gets wiped out by a nuke bomb or something, I don't know.
I mean, I actually, yeah, I agree. I think we're doing really well. Remember, we still haven't even implemented all of our hold harmless and have no reason to at this point. So, I mean, I'm kind of proud of that because we could have just jumped on it and we didn't, so.
We
So I
still
think,
sorry.
yeah, I think there's
And-
something to be said about being fiscally conservative, for
And just
sure.
talking, just a second, what Stephanie says, we do not project growth. And a lot of communities want to project growth. And, our philosophy is, if you project growth and you don't make it, man, that's when we start having issues. And when we first came into finance, at one point, they were projecting 3% growth every year. And 3% growth would be amazing.
Right.
But it's just not.
It's not
thing.
realistic.
And so we use a 3-year average. We do not project growth. And so because of that, we can continue to operate within our means. And the tourism program can easily fit within there as well.
Anybody else have
I'd
any
like to
questions?
call the question on this one so we can get
Please.
on with the rest of the night.
Come on, Commissioner.
We're way past Brian's
is
bedtime here.
exciting.
Come on.
Way past.
Way past.
He's got budget tomorrow too.
It's
with
Valentine's
community
Day and I'm
services,
sitting
so-
here. That's all right.
Yeah, budget's first thing in the morning, exciting stuff.
Okay. So, was that a motion?
No, I just said call the question.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Melton. Do I have a second?
What was his motion?
A second from Commissioner McDonald. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Nay.
Stephen Burnett,
Nay.
Josh Roden,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 5-2? 5-2.
I can promise you, we won't let you guys down.
I'm counting on it. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Item 12, consider and act upon the first publication of ordinance 1671. It's a map amendment to change the zoning at property located at 451 Michael Street. And Stella Riel, our city planner, has some information on that.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, City Manager Caesar. I promise I'm going to be really quick. I apologize, you are normally used to seeing a slideshow from me. Things happened in my department and that didn't get put on there. What I passed out to you, I want to paint a picture for you on what brought this item in front, what's bringing this item in front of you. John and Christine Fambro, owners of 451 Michelle Drive, are trying to start the process of splitting up property among their family. Excuse me. So the proposed plat that I presented you with was presented to me by a surveying company here in Alamogordo. When I reviewed it, I denied it because what they're trying to do is that area is manufactured housing park subdivision. So by splitting that section into 3 different parcels, they were not going to meet the requirements per ordinance for manufactured housing park. So I met with the property owners and made a few suggestions. So at this time, what they are wanting is to go ahead and take it from MH2 Manufactured Housing Park District to oops, this is incorrect. Anyway, to Manufactured Housing Subdivision District, because that will meet the requirements. Like you're seeing on that summary plat, it is 3 separate lots. That area is about 3.4 acres. In the future, they may come in and do something different, but this is the only thing that will work for them at this point in order to split it 3 ways. With that being said, the applications was filed and the fees were paid. The legal ad was placed in the Alamogordo Daily News. We did send out certified letters by certified return receipt to property owners of record within 200 feet of the property excluding public right-of-way. And as of February 14th, today, we have not received any letters of opposition or any returned certified mail. I am open for questions at this point.
So you're good with the way it is now?
I'm good with what what I have proposed. That will work. It keeps it in compliance with our current ordinances, and it also allows the property owners to do what they are trying to do.
So they're taking this, from
They're
what I can tell, they're taking this 4 acres here, like where these buildings are sitting.
Yes.
And they're gonna divide it into 3 different properties.
In 3, yes, sir.
How is that gonna work with the way these buildings are set up?
They will meet setback requirements. I looked at all that. They will definitely meet the setback requirements. They meet all of our ordinances as far as they need to for that manufactured housing subdivision.
This is,
Zoning district.
it's an existing trailer court out there right now,
Yes,
right?
yes, and I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, the property owners are really trying to get away from the rental of manufactured homes. So about 3 or 4 years ago, the back portion, I don't know if you remember when I brought it in front of you, they rezoned that to multiple family dwelling district because they're wanting to get rid of the manufactured homes and start building apartments back there. This section, though, is, they're trying to leave it to their kids. It's the manufactured park right behind Ben Archer.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I
Because you
apologize
heard me.
about,
Sorry.
I always give you a slideshow showing all that, but.
One other quick question, it's kind
Sure.
of off the subject of the rezone, but that mess right there in the middle, see that building? Is that still that way, or is this just an old picture?
No, it's pretty much still that way. That's a lot of his construction material. That's what that is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just unorganized.
Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve item 12?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you.
Thank you, Stella.
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Item 13, consider and act upon the first publication of ordinance 1672, amending chapter 32. This is concerning the disposition of real property. Ashley?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem,
And
Commissioners.
I do have a question for you when you're done. I just don't want to forget, so I
Okay.
have to tell you that.
So, yes, we are asking you to consider for first publication ordinance 1672. This ordinance includes updating the updating the ordinance to align with state statute section 3-54-1. The proposed language that you all have is taken directly from the state statute. And I am open for any questions.
I got a call today on this, and I apologize, because normally I would ask this ahead of time and not try to blindside you. But you're an attorney, yeah, you can answer this, I'm sure. Anyway, but I apologize, I did get busy. So I was asked, and I know it's not in the original language, so I don't know why they're asking now, but I was asked to mention the airport because the airport, does what I'm saying make sense?
We are both aware of that question.
Oh, okay.
So, as I said, this language comes directly from the state statute.
Okay.
And the state statute does not address, they don't carve out an exception for airports.
Okay.
The state statute could have, but they have not. So,
I believe what the concern is, and staff wasn't contacted, like you said, you were contacted, another commissioner was contacted, or at least one other commissioner was contacted. So many times with a grant agreement, whether it's from the state, it's from the federal government, or there's a transfer of property, lease, et cetera, the city enters into an agreement with that party. And part of that, dependent upon the grant or the transfer of the property, et cetera, in that agreement, it will have a provision that says if the city at some future time sells, gets rid of the property, et cetera, that it has to go back to that entity, or we have to repay the improvements that were made over time. We have this at the airport with our FAA and state money. We have it at Bonita Lake with the EPA and state money and FEMA money for that matter. We have it on various pipelines, tanks, roadways, box culverts. It's a standard. We don't talk about it a lot. It's in a lot of the agreements that this commission has approved. If at the end of the CDBG project, the city of Alamogordo sells blocks of street down in the Texas 8th Street area, the limits of the CDBG grant, we would be required to reimburse the federal government for that. So this change to the ordinance doesn't now allow commission, city manager, staff, et cetera, to violate those agreements. We would still have to repay. That's part of the consideration. That's why you don't see it in our existing ordinance. And whether or not that ordinance is changed, what we have to follow is state statute. We want commission, staff, the public to see and have available to them what we are required to follow.
Right, yeah. I just got the phone call, and I thought, I said, well, it's odd, because you're not taking it out. It was never in there to begin with. So I didn't understand, but I did promise I would mention it. and so I
Additionally,
did.
this statute doesn't just cover the sale. This is also all of our leases. And basically, I know you guys have heard a lot about, the fair market value, and the state is requiring us to lease and everything at fair market value. That's what this statute is.
I gotcha, okay. Alrighty.
Got a quick question on that. When we talk about fair market value and the value of these properties that we have and the leases and stuff, you can go out and get an appraisal all day long from various appraisers, and it's going to be, most of the time it's very, very high. But, in my eyes, the value of that property is only what somebody is willing to pay for it. How are we going to get around that? We've had a lot of leases that have been in place for years and years and years.
So in this ordinance, in the state statute, it actually has language in here that actually addresses that. It basically says that we have to put in writing, why we're not doing the fair market value. So one example is, while it was valued at this, no one's going to buy it for this amount. They'll only buy it for it's fairly simple. We just have to do our justification in writing. And that would be enough, should be enough, according to state statute anyways.
When did they change all these laws at the state that we're having to redo all this?
Well, I know that this statute was redone in 2018.
2018?
The ordinance hasn't, or this ordinance was done in
So it hadn't been rewritten?
1984.
Oh, another one of those.
Yes.
See, year my daughter was born, she's 38 this year, in case you're adding that up. She's probably gonna kill me for telling you that, but that's okay, whatever. I'm mom, she's not gonna get too mad. Yeah,
How are we gonna determine, like you have in here, anything that's under a $25,000 value?
she's 39.
How are we going to determine that without an appraisal? Because it doesn't state, in your section A, it doesn't state that we have to have an appraisal done.
So it doesn't say that in section A, but it does go on, kind of like we talked about in other ordinances. You have to look at the ordinance as a whole at times, and this is another one of those, where while it doesn't specifically say it in A, it does say it further down that it has to be fair market value and it's supposed to be appraised. So we would have to get an appraisal, which the city is working on getting all of city property appraised. I've been working hand in hand with appraisers to get a lot of our properties appraised.
Very good. Does anybody have any more questions? I have a motion for item 13.
I'll make a motion to approve item 13.
I have a motion from Commissioner Melton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Burnett. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Roden,
No.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 6-1. I know a lot of people are here for the Charter Committee. I promise, one more, and then we're getting to it. I promise.
We should have moved that up. to get
I
all the
know,
people out of
sorry,
here.
I didn't even think about it, but you're right, I should have. I apologize for that, that's on me. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Should have told me, man, I didn't even think about that.
Nobody
All right.
listens to me anyway, right?
Item 14, consider and act upon the first publication of ordinance 1673. This is to amend Chapter 32 concerning the disposition of personal property. And Ashley, you have some more information?
Yes, so this one's similar to the 1672, except this is amending the ordinance or updating it to align with state statute, Section 3-54-2. And again, this proposed language is taken directly from the state statute.
Does anybody have any questions?
So this will be basically to cover like our auctions that we sell real property for, like our used cars, used tools,
Correct.
that kind of stuff. We've been doing those online, instead of like they used to do once a year, they just do them online every so often.
Yeah, there's, for quite a number of years now, it's been online. There's normally a number of items anytime you go up to that site from Alamogordo.
So it's basically an ongoing.
Ongoing, I mean, there are a couple of weeks where you won't see something from Alamogordo, but it's pretty constant. It also includes when the police department is I guess the case is over, trial's over, whatever, the evidence that has been collected, if it's not, for whatever reason, returned to the original
Stuff
property
that was
owner,
forfeited.
it has that also, yeah.
Or seized, okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve item 14?
I'll make a motion to approve item 14.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Melton. Have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mayor Pro Tem Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carl Melton,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And now for the last line item. Agenda item, whatever. Okay. Item 15, consider an act upon appointing members to serve on the Charter Committee, and Rachel Hughes has some information on that.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. So this is from the commission meeting where you passed the resolution 2023-3 establishing a city charter, where you will appoint members at this meeting. So the committee is formed to review the effectiveness of the current city charter. This resolution did state that the committee shall consist of no less than 7 residents, which is state statute, and no more than 14 residents of the city. Each member of the commission may nominate 2 residents of the city. So the applicants that we got, there were 7 turned in by the commission. I verified the applicant's party affiliation per state statute also with the voter registration list that the county clerk provided. There are 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 2 are no party independent. There was 1 application, just to mention, that was self-nominated. However, according to the resolution, someone from the commission had to nominate. And you have the applications, nominations in front of you.
Okay? So, I don't know what to do next. What am I supposed to do?
Entertain a motion to appoint the committee?
Just, we don't have to say who they are or anything, everybody? Like, I've never done this, sorry.
I don't
You
remember.
could do it as
since I've done
as
it,
you
so.
did with seating a couple of the commissioners when those seats had to be appointed. I recognize a few of the candidates. If you wanted to bring them up, ask them questions, it's really up to you on how you want to appoint.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, this is similar to boards and committees also.
So we have to appoint them all individually,
You can appoint them all individually,
or can we do it as a
state
group?
their names.
Just,
Sure, you can do that, if you want to state their names for the record also.
Okay.
So if we don't approve
All right.
tonight, though, then we've got to start over. If we don't approve all 7 tonight, then we've got to come back another meeting, or how does that work?
Yeah, 'cause it's a minimum of 7.
Yeah.
You have to finish it.
And how many do we have?
7,
7.
and 1 self-nominated.
There's 8 total, but 7 nominated.
Right, and so that 8th one, it's up to the commission, but per the resolution, that had to be a nomination by someone on the commission.
Does anybody have questions?
Say
of
that
any of
again.
So that 8th application was a self-nomination. According to the resolution, it had to be somebody the commission actually had to nominate a person. And send those nominations into me by the 7th of February.
So okay,
We're only selecting from the 7
from the
that
7.
we nominated.
Okay.
Or if you don't select all 7 that were nominated, you need to bring it to the next commission meeting and bring additional nominations.
That's correct, and you would have to just give me those nominations by the following Tuesday, so I could submit them into the following agenda.
Don't you guys already have a charter committee meeting scheduled?
We do, however, I could just cancel that meeting if we need to, because if we don't have the 7, per state statute, you can't even, you won't form a committee.
Okay, but the 7, okay,
We basically only have 7 nominees, because
We each
in
nominated
order to
one.
be nominated, a commissioner had to nominate that person.
Okay.
So the 8th one, we just gotta kinda kick that out. So we have 7 right now on the table.
Okay, so the 8th one is,
Just throw it away. Because it
Okay.
wasn't nominated by a commissioner.
okay. I gotcha.
Does anybody have any
Yeah,
questions?
I guess that's my question. My question is, does anybody have any questions for any of these nominees? Or these applicants, or whatever you want to call them?
We just have to trust the nominees.
Who's the staff liaison that's gonna be overseeing? Is it gonna be Rachel?
I'll be there also, but if there's any work to be done, that will be
Who's gonna be there to
Rachel.
oversee you? Bad baby manager. Okay. All right.
Can we
Okay.
just make a motion to approve all 7?
I mean, I think so,
I
right?
think that's how it'll work. I'll make a
Yes.
motion, we approve the 7 members that were nominated by the commission to the charter committee.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Burnett.
Let me clarify with Rachel. Do we need to state their names in the motion, or are we good?
Um,
I mean, you already have them on the record. In
I
the-
do have them here in the agenda book.
Okay.
If you want me to, I can certainly state
Okay,
them.
why don't I just say their
Yeah.
names real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Just so there's no confusion, because I was almost confused. Okay. So we have Benjamin Luna, Tim Mills, is he here tonight? Hi there, okay. Elise Barella, saw you. Marjorie Schultz, I know she's back there, probably gonna be exhausted at work tomorrow. It's okay, it's okay, it'll be fine. Shannon Wright, right there. Vesta Edmond, right there, how are you? Okay. And Vincent Jones, the only one of my son's teachers that ever actually intimidated me. I have to tell you. What did you say? What? Oh. He's a little intimidating, let me tell you. Smart as can be, but. Okay, so we have Nadia Sykes here. And now, she's self-nominated. I actually mentioned it to her as a backup for me. But my name's not on there, so I don't know what to do now. I mean, I didn't really nominate you because you didn't put my name on there, and you were really kind of a backup for.
I would like to know the party affiliations, because it's stated clearly who can and can't be on the committee.
It's 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 2 independent.
That's what it claims, yeah.
Well, we're just supposed to, we can't have more than a simple majority, I believe that is.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Right. So is that,
Yeah.
Yes.
that would be a simple majority.
Yes.
I mean, we're not gonna, there's only 7, so I think that would be a simple majority, right? All right. Well, that's it. I've named them. I have a motion from,
Got a motion, a second?
And a second.
okay, tell me the motion again, I'm sorry.
Reardon and Burnett.
I did the motion to,
I
Motion
did.
from Commissioner Reardon, I am
To
so
appoint.
tired and so confused. Motion from Commissioner Reardon, a second from Commissioner Burnett. It's just, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And motion passes 7-0. Is there anything else? No, not
motion
at
to
this.
adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do. So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon, do I have a second? Second from Commissioner McDonald. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And we're adjourned. Sorry, everybody. I should have moved that to the front. I apologize. That's my fault.
They might try.
Of course, then I would have just been flustered the rest of the night, so it's okay.